Touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
Hey everyone, welcome into The Process, Crimson Tide Recruiting. I am your host, Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown, Alabama. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on our YouTube page. Be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well so you can be notified by hitting the notification bell so you can be notified when we drop content on our YouTube page. I am here each week to break down the latest in Crimson Tide football recruiting news. And we have a lot to get to today as I will discuss the Crimson Tide having another big weekend on recruiting trail this weekend after hosting a lot of in-state recruits on last weekend as a couple of different guys got new offers. A total of 6 prospects received offers from the Crimson Tide on last weekend. I'll talk about those guys a little later in the show. I'll also have an opportunity to be joined by guests. It has been a minute since we have had an opportunity to have a guest on The Process, but we do have a guest today, and he was actually on the campus of the University of Alabama last weekend for an unofficial visit, and he's 2023 offensive lineman Ryqueze McElderry out of Anniston High School in Anniston, Alabama. He's currently verbally committed to the Georgia Bulldogs, but the Crimson Tide are pushing to flip his commitment in the future. We will have him on the show, and he will discuss the latest in his recruitment with the Crimson Tide hosting him, and also talk about his commitment to Georgia a little bit. So we have all of that on deck today, but to get things rolling on today's episode of The Process, I do want to talk about the Crimson Tide hosting a lot of guys this weekend, including 4-star offensive lineman Miles McVay out of East St. Louis High School in Illinois. When you take a look at McVay, he currently stands at 6'7", a massive offensive lineman out of Illinois. So the Crimson Tide are going after in his 2023 recruiting class. Nick Saban actually traveled to his high school on Monday to check on the 4-star offensive lineman. The Crimson Tide offensive line coach Doug Marrone traveled to East St. Louis to check on McVay on last week. So the Crimson Tide are showing a lot of interest in the 4-star offensive lineman at the moment. He said that he was in constant contact with them, and he said that he was talking to them pretty much almost every day, texting or calling them to stay in contact with them. So the Crimson Tide look like they are making a push for Miles McVay out of East St. Louis. He will be on campus this weekend for an unofficial visit as the Crimson Tide are set to host their junior day event. But going back to last weekend, like I said at the top of the show, the Crimson Tide did extend a lot of new offers, and one of those offers went out to 2023 4-star defensive end Hunter Osborne out of Hood Trussell High School in Trussell, Alabama. If you guys have been following TouchdownAlabama.com for the last couple of months, you probably have heard of Hunter Osborne a couple of times now. Had an opportunity to catch up with them actually in August before his recruitment exploded. He only had 12 offers at that moment when we checked on him at here at Trussell High School, but his recruitment is on a whole nother level. It is in a whole different galaxy right now. He actually has 45 offers after the Crimson Tide and Vanderbilt offered him on last weekend. He said that he was totally shocked when Nick Saban told him that he had an offer from the Crimson Tide. He said he had to step outside the room. Him and his mom just looked at each other, and he said he asked, did he really offer me? He was just in a state of shock. But looking at Hunter Osborne, currently stands at 6'4", weighs 260 pounds, a long prospect who plays really well in space, has shown an ability to stack and shed. One of the things that's most impressive about his game is his timing. I think he knows how to time the quarterback release better than any guy that I've seen at the high school football level, as he just loads up on the pass deflections at the line of scrimmage using his long frame to his advantage. But he has an offer from the Crimson Tide. Now we will see how things progress with the Crimson Tide continuing to recruit their Hood Trussell product in the future. The Crimson Tide also offered another in-state 2023 recruit in Wilkin Formby, a 6'8" offensive lineman out of Northridge High School in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So he is a Tuscaloosa native, grew up in Alabama fan, grew up having a front row seat to watch Nick Saban and Alabama dominate, so he has a lot of respect for the Crimson Tide program. Alabama becomes, I think, the 20th program around there to offer Wilkin Formby. With them being 6'8", he currently starts at tackle for Northridge High School. Him and his teammate Travaris Banks actually got offers from the Crimson Tide on last weekend, but just taking a look at Wilkin Formby's game, he shows some great mobility, does not have the quickness of some offensive offensive tackle, prospects, but I think he has some mobility to his game. He's rated as a 3-star recruit on most recruiting sites, but I think he will end up being 4-star before this recruiting cycle wraps up. But the Crimson Tide are interested in Wilkin Formby. It'll be interesting, just like with Hunter Osborne, to see how their relationship will progress with him being a Tuscaloosa native who the Crimson Tide are going after. The Crimson Tide also offered a guy who's actually a freshman right now at Pike Road High School in Pike Road, Alabama, and Anthony Rogers, easily one of the best freshman running backs in the country. If you guys have been following our YouTube, at least to the point of last season, you were able to see Anthony Rogers play against Headland High School in October. You guys can check out those full highlights over on our YouTube page, but we are rolling them now as well. We highlighted him, and I think we made the video saying he was the best freshman running back inside the state of Alabama, and I think he really proved that in that highlight clip, but he also proved it throughout the season. He actually accounted for 30 total touchdowns, had more than 2,000 all-purpose yards for the Pike Road Patriots. A really explosive athlete, just a naturally athletic football player. When you watch his highlights, it does not look like he's a freshman. He looks almost as if he's a senior prospect. He has an offer list that matches an offer list that a lot of seniors would love to have. And just looking at Alabama joining programs like Auburn and Georgia, who have already offered Anthony Rogers. So Anthony Rogers' offer list probably will be insane by the time he is a senior, but the Crimson Tide are now on the radar with Anthony Rogers, with them extending an offer to him. We are going to pull up a graphic of the guys who were able to receive offers from the Crimson Tide on last weekend. You see that list. You see the 3 guys I've just talked about: the Hunter Osborne, Wilkin Formby, also Anthony Rogers. But you see a list of some other guys in the 2024 recruiting class as well. When you take a look at Jalen Mbakwe out of Clay Chocolate High School, along with his teammate Mario Craver. You also see Travaris Banks, who's a teammate of Wilkin Formby at Northridge High School. So the Crimson Tide offered a couple of new in-state recruits on last weekend. I think this also paints the picture of how loaded the state of Alabama will be, not only in the 2023 recruiting class, because when you take a look at the 2023 recruiting class, Alabama is loaded with talent from top to bottom. It is going to be a similar amount of talent for recruiting classes to come. Just take a look at the Crimson Tide offering those guys on last weekend. Nick Saban and Alabama's coaching staff, after hosting those guys, have hit the road again. They were on the road heavy last week, but they are going to hit the road again this week, starting off Monday with a bang. They were able to check out Anniston High School, make stops at Florence High School. Harmon Wiggins, the Crimson Tide wide receivers coach, was on the other side of the country, inside the state of Washington, checking out a couple of different prospects. When you look at the state of Washington, the Crimson Tide also have a top prospect from that state in the 2023 recruiting class who they are really going after. He is Jaden Wayne, a 5-star defensive end out of Tacoma, Washington, who the Crimson Tide really like. So I'm pretty sure Harmon Wiggins was able to check in on Wayne on Monday. The Crimson Tide's head coach Nick Saban and the Tide's defensive line coach made a couple of different stops in Alabama on Monday, including at Florence High School to check on 5-star defensive back Jaleel Hurley. They also made stops at Anderson High School to check on guys like who I will talk about later on, talk with later on in the show, in Ryqueze McElderry. Of course, we look at Anderson High School 4-star athlete Antonio Kite, who signed with the Crimson Tide in December. He's also a product of that school. But just taking a look at the Bulldogs roster, they have talent on that roster for years to come, which is why Nick Saban made the stop at Anderson High School to make sure that those guys knew that they were getting interest from the Crimson Tide. But we will have Ryqueze on a little bit later in the show to talk about the latest in his recruitment. But before I get an opportunity to talk with Ryqueze, I do want to highlight the Crimson Tide having another big recruiting weekend. We do have a list of confirmed names that we have been able to confirm at touchdownalabama.com. Just taking a look at this list, just taking a look at the top of it, you have a total of 3 5-stars already, and 5-star outside linebacker Malik Bryant. You also have 5-star defensive end Keon Keeley, who is currently verbally committed to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. You also have guys like Makari Vickers, who has been getting recruited by the Crimson Tide for a couple of months, I think almost a year now, with him being from Tallahassee, Florida, by the way of John Paul II Catholic High School, which is the same high school the Crimson Tide signed 5-star defensive back Terrion Arnold from a couple of recruiting classes ago. The Crimson Tide will have these guys on campus this weekend. This is just early look of this list. I think this list is going to be even longer, going to be filled with a lot more top recruits saying that they are going to be headed to Tuscaloosa this weekend. So this is just the early look and early preview, just the first look of some guys that we have been able to confirm who are expected to be in Tuscaloosa, but a lot more guys are expected to join this list as the week goes on. Like I said at the top of the show, we are going to be joined by a special guest today, and we have him on the line in 2023 offensive lineman Ryqueze McElderry out of Anniston High School in Anniston, Alabama. Ryqueze, thank you so much for joining us today on the process, man. You got an opportunity to visit Alabama on last weekend. What was that visit like? What really stood out about your last visit to Tuscaloosa?
The visit was real good. It was real special this time. It meant a whole lot to me, and the visit was just real good.
And of course, you got an Alabama offer, I think, a couple of months ago before you made the decision to verbally commit to Georgia, of course. I'm going back to that offer. Could you remember what that felt like with you getting an offer from the Crimson Tide?
It felt real good because I grew up an Alabama fan as a little boy. I still root for them a little bit because, I still grew up an Alabama fan. Just getting that offer was a real big deal. And, it was, I think 2 days before my birthday. So that was probably, one of the best birthday gifts I got ever in my life.
Yeah, now, of course, you're building your relationship with Alabama's coaching staff, of course, Nick Saban and their offensive line coach, Doug Marrone, along with Freddie Roach, of course. What's your relationship like with the Alabama coaching staff at the moment?
It is real good. Our relationship has exceeded a lot. It has surpassed to another level. Our relationship is really, really good than what it was in the past. And the relationship that we got now, is a really, really good relationship.
And of course, you're verbally committed to Georgia, of course. The national champions, they were able to defeat the Crimson Tide in the CFP National Championship this year. What was it about Georgia that made you want to commit to them a couple of months ago? And what was it about that coaching staff that made you comfortable with making that decision?
It was a home feeling for one. It felt like home when I went to Athens. From the first time I met all of the coaches in the summer. Having a relationship. To me, having a key relationship with the coaches and the whole staff at the university, that plays a big role in it because that's what I'm going to be living at. That's who I'm going to be around all the time, 24/7. Just having a good relationship with them made me commit to Georgia. And it just felt like home up there.
As far as your game is concerned, I think you started at tackle for Anniston High School this past season. But moving forward, what are some areas that you want to improve at and get better at moving forward with your high school career moving forward?
I want to get better at my run blocking, keeping a real good base. That's what I really want to work on a little bit harder. I think I'm pretty good at pass protection. I don't let nobody get to my quarterback. I haven't allowed a sack since the 9th grade, period. I haven't allowed a sack. So, my pass blocking game, I think that's pretty good. But my run blocking, I think I can improve a little bit more on that.
Thank you so much, Ryqueze, for joining us today on the process. Thank you guys so much for joining us on our YouTube page. If you are here, be sure to hit that like button. If you are a subscriber, hit that notification bell so you can be notified when we drop content on our YouTube page. Then head over to touchdownalabama.com. At Touchdown Alabama, there's a lot of content from last weekend. We have interviews with a lot of guys who have received offers from the Crimson Tide recently. Also have a lot of other content with the Crimson Tide heating up in the transfer portal. Be sure to check out all of that over at touchdownalabama.com. Pick your subscription today so you can be able to read all of our subscriber-only articles. Get your hands on our yearly print magazine issue as well. Then head over to the Google Play Store if you have an Android device to download the Touchdown Alabama app. Also, if you have an Apple device, head over to the Apple App Store. You can find the Touchdown Alabama app there as well. As always, I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama.
Process.